Tales from the Dawn are a set of short stories that came out after Endwalker. Each one follows a moment in the life of an important character from our tale. This is the story In Pursuit of Knowledge, and it follows our friend Erenville. When we're reading the story, we have the choice of picking either a male or female warrior of light. As I play a female one, that is what I picked. And let's get into the story. If you assist us, we shall share with you all we know. So ended the letter which his fellow gleaner had delivered to him in snow-swept Isgard. As Erenville regarded the signature of the petitioner, Krail Baldessian, he recalled the eclectic group that had greeted him in Labyrinthos. What's your story? He was pondering the proposition in his lodging when his link pearl rang. It was the guild's administration officer who launched into the shocking news before Erenville had the chance to speak. There's to be a great exodus, an exodus from the very start. In frantic tones, the man relayed the detail from the forum announcement, the coming of the final days, as foretold by Heidelin, and the means by which they might escape the moon. I knew they were hiding something. Even as he struggled to take it all in, he felt vindicated by the revelation. Time is of the essence. Do as you must and return to Charlene at once. Despite his best effort, it took Erenville a full 3 days to return his animal charges to the natural habitats. Days during which he received unsettling reports of calamity and chaos in the Near East. Upon manifesting in the Charlene Aetherite Plaza, he marched to the nearby Baldestian Annex, where he found Krail in the middle of discussion with the receptionist. Tell me the details, he said, declaring himself and his purpose in one breath, as he thrust out the letter in front of him. Krail stared at him, dumbstruck, but quickly gathered herself and obliged. And what a fantastic tale it was! The science of the Seven Dawn had uncovered not only the true history of the star, but the cause of the final days, and now they sought to forestall them, that all might be saved. Erenville had always endeavoured to cultivate a broader knowledge of the world, both for his work and for himself. He had of course heard about the science, the renowned champion not least of all. He had not however expected to send said champion on an errand to round up runaway marmots, nor the encounter he again shortly thereafter in form of a toad. So this is how adventurers amuse themselves? But to now be privy of the science knowledge and their purpose, he couldn't help but feel the smallness of his own. Even with the limited scope of his experience, there seemed to be no end to the star's mysteries. Krail's dizzying account made it plain that he hadn't even scratched the surface, and it pained him to imagine all those secrets left behind, never to see the light of day. All those stories forever untold. Tell me, how can I help? The earnest plea tumbled from his mouth. Krail's expression softened as he proceeded to explain the role the science would have, the gleaner's skill should play in the preparation for the maiden journey of the Charlayan's first starship. The grand plan was swiftly set in motion. Employing their vast network, Erenville and his fellow gleaners secured the largest part of the manpower needed to enhance the vessel's ether burner. Those who answered the call assembled at Scholar's Harbour before transporting supplies to the central circuit. There they laboured under the forum's watchful eye to complete the massive arc that would fly to the very edge of the universe. As the work entered the final stages, while the Loporid's Hipperhopper was brought in, the specimen that had previously been loaded onto the ark needed to be removed. Aided by the staff of Labyrinthos and member of the ill-sparred continent, the gleaner tended to the arduous task, bearing load after load from Thomasine to Archeon. Though Erenville was no stranger to heavy lifting, the sheer quantity of cargo soon left his muscles and joints screaming in protest. He had delivered another crate to the lift and was vainly trying to stretch out the kinks in his back when a weary voice called out to him. "Pardon me, old boy." The young Ellison was clad in his Scardian mail, and the gold trim of his collar marked him as a member of House for Tempt. The smirk narrowed it down further. Oh, he was beginning with a pirate in the harbour, like they were old lovers. I'm supposed to take this package to Cockle's Forge, but I fear I'm hopelessly lost. Would you be so kind as to direct me? Cockles, you say? In that case you need to... Erenville began before thinking better of it. Actually, I'll just deliver it. Truly, you're too kind, a veritable saint. My heartfelt thanks. His face beaming, the lad surrendered the package to Erenville. No sooner were his hands free than he placed them on his waist and arched backward, groaning in relief. Erenville felt a tinge of guilt when he gestured to the nearby mountain of crates. While I see to your package, mind taking care of this in my stead? The colour drained from the lad's face as the enormity of his fresh burden sunk in. He slumped forward in defeat, groaning again for an altogether different reason. Fury, take me! Had I known how hard this would be, I would have asked the dragons for help. That was an option. The war between man and dragon had ended, Erenville knew, but had relations already become so amicable that they would labour side by side? He considered asking about it, out of professional and personal interest, but ultimately bit his tongue. His aversion to overly familiar individuals aside, there would be no future opportunities to engage with Dravanians should they fail to complete the arc. A brisk walk saw him to the forge, where enhancements were being carried out on the ether burner. The air was thick with clanging of hammer and the chatter of engineers, punctured by the barked orders of Coco Danko. Erenville handed the package to the first person who spared him a glance. As he watched it borne away, his eyes fell upon a yellow bird-like creature coming from the other direction. In the course of recruiting collaborators for the great project, Erenville had learned that it was a member of Garland Ironworks. Whatever it is. Though he had been curious to know more, he hadn't found the right moment to ask. But if not now, then when? The creature was accompanied by a Lalafell engineer. Which was it? Erenville began by exchanging casual pleasantries, taking a hard-earned break. No rest for the righteous, as the chief would say. The three of us are off on an errand. Let's turn to the feathered enigma. Isn't that right, Alpha? So that's his name. But who makes three? The diminutive beetle-like machine at Alpha's feet was an altogether different mystery. Some manner of toy? Certainly doesn't appear designed for bearing cargo. Forgive me, but I've been wondering, what is Alpha exactly? Why, he's a member of the Ironworks. What I meant was, what manner of creature is he? A chocobo, of course. What else could he be? Chocobos were a common sight across the three great continents, having been domesticated long ago. There existed several major breeds, and Erenville could readily identify all of them. Well, apparently not. In all his years, he had never encountered a variety like this, either in the wild or in tome. His brows furrowed, and in response Alpha gave Erenville an archetypal quah. It does sound like a chocobo, I suppose, Erenville conceded. He was trying to think of another question when the little machina suddenly rammed Wedge's leg, causing the engineer to jump with a start. Ah, the chief, he blurted out, been painfully reminded of his responsibility. We need to get going, I'm afraid, but it was nice to talk to you. And with that, Wedge hurried off, with Alpha flapping and the machina clanking along behind him, leaving the bewildered Erenville along with his thoughts. As he watched the last of Alpha's plumage disappear from sight, he found himself unsatisfied. There must be an incredible story there. It couldn't be ruled out that Alpha was an undescribed species. He himself had captured more than a few in his time. There were academics who were tasked with studying, classifying, and the naming such species, and they could doubtlessly do the same for Alpha. But to what end? The science discoveries were a stark reminder that truth has never been the province of a select few. Certainly not the Forum. Nor was the future set in stone, as the end of a 1,000-year war between man and dragon demonstrated. Elementary and obvious conclusions perhaps, yet they conspire to make him wax philosophical. How does one identify the unknown? And at what point does it become the known? Think, keep thinking, and you will find your answer, your tale. A passing engineer brushed against his shoulder, pulling Erenville out of his reverie. As the face of those around him came into focus, he felt newfound appreciation for their individuality. The cryptic yet colourful snatches of overhead conversation amidst a vivid landscape that suddenly stood out in sharp relief. There's so little I know, so much I've yet to learn. The science must triumph, and he would do his part to make it so. With one last stretch and a deep breath, he moved on. The mountain isn't going to move itself. Work on the ark continued at a breakneck pace, as if the busiest month of the year had been condensed into a week. The lopers scrambled to and fro, picking their way between porters as they imparted their knowledge to attentive Charlayan scholars. Careful urgency was the order of the day, and even members of the forum could be seen moving with uncharacteristic haste as they oversaw the effort. Kogol's force remained a source of boisterous commotion, with its masters bellowing order in an ever-hoarser voice. Ironforge engineers were present in Thomasine at all hours, toiling beside Hannes alchemist. Keeping this massive workforce fed were family members and servants and the staff of the Last Stand, who prepared the meals in bulk with ingredients sourced from Merel Agronomics and the Mitato. Nary a moment passed when coffee, chai, and nutritious supplement weren't being distributed. Blankets were set aside for those needing rest, and weary workers gently laid them over their slumbering peers. Eventually, the downpour subsided to a drizzle, and the gleaner began finding themselves free. By the time Erenville had made his last delivery, more than half of his colleagues were idle. Nevertheless, they remained in Labyrinthos, ready to answer the call at a moment's notice. Until one day, when the ringing of a bell echoed throughout the artificial sky, when from the scattered amplification devices, a crackling voice began to speak. "Attention, everyone! This is Fortuno Levier." Hands halted their work, and feet froze in the tracks, as all listened intently. Fortuno thanked them for their tireless labour and many sacrifices. The Ark systems were undergoing inspection, he continued, and the city held its breath, uncertain whether this announcement would be the cause of celebration or disappointment. But the vessel itself stands complete. The stars are now within our reach. Labyrinthos erupted into a chorus of cheers. Some laughed, some wept, some shook hands while others embraced. In their sheer triumph, every soul rejoiced in their own way. Erenville, for his part, only sighed in relief. To some he may have appeared indifferent, but the warmth that filled his breast was no less invigorating. We did it! With all his heart, he prayed that their hopes would reach the distant stars and deliver their own unto the morrow. And sometimes wishes come true. The final days came and went, and peace returned to Charlayan. On a morning much like any other, Erenville approached the Baldestian annex. This time, however, he sought not to answer a petition, but to offer a proposal. In exchange for helping to rebuild the students of Baldestian, he would request their assistance in restoring the archive to their proper order. While he was somewhat concerned he might be dragged into troublesome Saiyan business once more, deep down he almost hoped it would happen. One day, perhaps, when his part in their adventure is ended, he will lay to rest a long-deferred matter, that which had confronted him in his faraway home, long before he took his new name and chose to walk the gleaner's path. With renewed purpose, he strode through the annex door to find Kyle, who again received him with a surprised look. Delight in their stories, but do not forget your own, for it's far from finished.